After 25 years, a millionaire reveals an incredible secret and discovers his amazing daughter. In the heart of a bustling Midwestern city, Steven Hartman, a self-made millionaire, stood at the window of his penthouse office, staring out at the sprawling skyline. His mind churned like the autumn leaves swirling against the glass. He had built an empire from nothing, pouring every ounce of his being into his tech business. Yet, as the sun dipped low, casting a golden hue across his perfectly manicured life, an unshakable emptiness loomed within him. It was a void shaped by the cost of success, a family he left behind in a rural town, where his mother worked tirelessly to give him a shot at the American dream. That crisp morning, a letter arrived. Not just any letter, a handwritten envelope, worn at the edges and thick with the weight of possibility. The neat scrawl inside read, "Hi, my name is Emily. I believe I'm your daughter." Steven's heart raced as disbelief settled in. What could this mean? For 25 years, he had focused on building his identity, but now, like a gaping wound, the truth seeped into his life. Emily was raised in the same town he had worked so hard to escape. Her life was painted in shades of struggle and resilience, a narrative that echoed his own past. With every detail he uncovered, he felt his carefully constructed world tilt. She had faced systemic failures head-on, becoming a passionate advocate for social justice, fighting for those who were forgotten. As he read about her workshops, aimed at lifting people out of poverty, tears pricked at the corners of his eyes. His mother's love flooded back in vivid detail, the long nights spent studying, her hands calloused from working multiple jobs, her laughter when he finally succeeded. The tension tightened in Steven's chest. All those years of ruthlessly chasing success had come at the expense of family bonds. As he prepared to meet Emily at the community center, he felt a storm brewing within him, a clash of worlds. The gathering buzzed with energy. Hope filled the air as people from different walks of life connected. And there she was, Emily, her spirit radiant, surrounded by those she tried to uplift. Seeing her stirred something deep inside of him. How could he reconcile the man he had become with the father he never was? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Every smile exchanged, every story shared, pushed him closer to the truth he had hidden from himself. Could he stand up to the guilt of his past, willing to forge a new path with Emily? The sun cast a warm glow, and amidst laughter and tears, Steven realized the world he had built felt like glass, shiny, beautiful, yet impossibly fragile. He stood at the edge of a transformation, uncertain yet hopeful. Could he embrace this new reality, nurturing the roots of his past while reaching for a future he once thought lost? The answers lay in the connection they were just beginning to explore, making the air thick with anticipation. Would this be the journey that finally stitched his heart back together, or would he remain caught in the shadows of regret? The air inside the community center was electric with excitement. Steven stood frozen at the entrance, watching Emily interact with the diverse crowd. She moved with ease, her laughter infectious, her passion palpable. It struck him how effortlessly she connected with people, something he had long forgotten how to do. He felt like a stranger in his own skin, a man caught in a life of his own making, yet yearning for something deeper. As he took a hesitant step forward, Emily's gaze swept across the room, landing on him. Their eyes met, and in that moment time paused. She glanced away, her smile faltering for just a beat before she approached him, curiosity dancing in her eyes. He swallowed hard, fighting the tidal wave of emotions that crashed over him. "Hi," she said, her voice bright, though it carried a weight of uncertainty. "Hi," he managed, feeling awkward under the warmth of her gaze. I'm Steven." "I know." She laughed softly, a sound that wrapped around him like a comforting blanket. "I can't believe you came." "I had to," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "I'm sorry it took me so long." Her expression shifted, a flicker of something he struggled to read. Hurt, maybe? It's okay. I can't imagine how you must feel. Those words unraveled him, threading through the knots of guilt and regret that coiled tightly around his heart. They spoke not just of forgiveness but of understanding, something he craved more than anything. He wanted to explain all that he had done, the reasons behind his choices, but the words evaded him, slipping through his fingers like sand. Emily gestured toward a table filled with colorful brochures. We're planning a community event next month. I would love for you to join, to see what we're doing. His brows knitted together. Isn't that too much? Too much? She was taken aback. No, it's a chance to see the place I've called home. I want you to understand why I do this work. He nodded, but doubt twisted in his gut. Part of him feared stepping back into that world, the one he ran from, but another part yearned to connect with Emily, to know her life, to become part of her story. In the whirlwind of conversation, a small child ran by, giggling as a balloon floated up into the ceiling. Stephen's heart lightened momentarily at the innocent sound. It was a reminder of the family life he had missed, of carefree days filled with laughter, warmth, and love. Suddenly, Emily's eyes were full of something deeper, a well of longing he recognized. Are you really okay with me being here? She asked softly, her vulnerability breaking through a facade of confidence. The question pierced through his soul. I struggle with it, Emily. I've built my life around success, and now, he faltered. Now I'm standing here, with my daughter I barely know. Tears shimmered in her eyes. You're here now, she whispered, and that means everything. Their shared silence wrapped around them, full of unspoken words and newfound hope. And then a voice broke through the quiet, booming and authoritative. Emily! Are you ready for the next meeting? A tall figure approached, eyes sharp and scanning the crowd. A leader, perhaps. In that moment, Stephen felt a rush of anxiety. He was an intruder in this world, a parent who had missed so much. But the flicker of determination within him ignited. Not only did he want to make up for lost time, he wanted to embrace this path with Emily by his side. No more running, no more hiding. As he looked at her, determined to step forward, uncertainty hung heavy in the air. Could their relationship stand against the challenges of their pasts? And just then, a commotion erupted at the back of the room, drawing everyone's attention. A loud crash echoed, and a gasp followed. What now? Stephen muttered, anxiety creeping back into his chest as he turned toward the noise. What was about to unfold? The sound of shattering glass sent a ripple of panic through the community center. People turned toward the source of the noise, voices rising in confusion. Stephen's heart raced as he gripped the edge of the table, bracing himself for whatever chaos was about to unfurl. Emily's eyes widened, and she instinctively took a step closer to him, her expression shifting from surprise to concern. Stay here, she said softly, though it was clear that she wanted to see what had happened. With a single glance, they exchanged a silent agreement. Whatever was going on, they would face it together. A cluster of children had gathered around a broken display stand, balloons scattered on the floor. One kid, with dark curls and a mischievous grin, was holding a deflated balloon like a trophy. He raised it with pride, unfazed by the mess he'd created. The younger ones around him giggled, oblivious to the adults' worried murmurs. Jake! Emily called, her voice cutting through the chatter. What did you do? The boy turned, taking a dramatic pause before bursting into laughter. I was just trying to show everyone how high I could reach. Her exasperation softened into a smile, a genuine warmth spreading across her face. You nearly gave me a heart attack, she said, but her eyes sparkled with love and affection for the kids. In that moment, Stephen couldn't help but smile, overwhelmed by the way she handled the tiny crisis like a pro. A small part of him yearned for such effortless joy, the kind of laughter that filled a room with light. He caught a glimpse of the kind of life he might have led, a world filled with children's giggles, shared experiences, and the simplicity of everyday joys. As the adults began to disperse, calming down the playful ruckus, Stephen felt a familiar heaviness settle back in. He glanced at Emily, who was now kneeling by the display, tidying the remnants of the chaos. There was a grace to her movements, a determination that inspired him, but a nagging fear clawed at his insides. What if I can't do this? He thought. What if he stumbled and fell back into his old habits, a life solely focused on ambition and neglect? Emily soon stood, brushing her hands together and looking up to meet his gaze. Are you all right? She asked, her voice laced with concern. I'm just trying to figure things out, he admitted, his heart aching at the profound truth of those words. The path ahead felt nebulous, shrouded in uncertainty. Guess we all are, she said, a hint of vulnerability threading through her confidence. But you're here now, and that's what matters. Her words cut through his doubts, granting room for flickers of hope. He wanted to hold on to that feeling, to believe that he could be someone who embraced change, who didn't shy away from the responsibility that came with it. Then the crowd began to disperse, and people buzzed around the center, absorbed in their conversations. Emily leaned in a little closer, lowering her voice. I wrote something recently about community, about the importance of connections. Would you like to hear it? Her invitation felt like a lifeline, and he nodded, grateful for the distraction from his spiraling thoughts. But then the authoritative voice that interrupted their moment rang out again. Emily, when you're done, can you come join us for the meeting? The tone was firm, and Steven could see a flicker of anxiety dart across Emily's face. She hesitated, glancing between the importance of the meeting and Steven. He sensed the struggle within her. She wanted to include him in this world but was still tethered to the responsibilities she held. You can go, he urged softly. I can wait. Emily's eyes searched his, worry etching lines on her forehead. I don't want to abandon you. Just a meeting, right? He said, forcing a reassuring smile. I'll be here. As she turned to leave, Steven felt the weight of quiet dread settle in. He was learning to navigate this unfamiliar territory, to embrace the vulnerability that came with opening himself up. But deep down, a question lingered: would he be able to truly connect, or would he fumble? Through the darkness, afraid of stepping fully into the light, with that uncertainty looming over him, he watched as Emily walked away, igniting a spark of determination within him. It was time to face whatever lay ahead. This was the moment for change, and he couldn't shrink back now. But as he stood in the hushed aftermath of the commotion, a sudden thought cut through his resolve. What if the past he was trying to leave behind came rushing back when he least expected it? What if the next moment would challenge everything he was trying to build? The meeting room buzzed with excited chatter as people settled in, the atmosphere shifting from quiet concerns to productivity. Steven remained in the main hall, watching the kids as they resumed their playful antics. Laughter filled the air, but it felt distant, like another world he yearned to be a part of. His focus wavered between the grant of laughter and the empty sound of chairs scraping against the floor from the adjacent room. Thoughts of Emily played in his mind, each one tinged with a desire to understand her world, to be more than just an outsider peering in. He felt a knot tightening in his stomach, a familiar unease tightening its grip. Look, it's Jake! A girl squealed, darting past him with a handful of brightly colored balloons, still clinging for dear life to their license of fun. She took her place amongst her friends, drawing attention to Steven and his brooding demeanor. Hey mister, come play! Jake shouted, waving his deflated balloon. His infectious grin shone brightly amid the chaos. For an instant, Steven's heart warmed. How long had it been since someone asked him to play? With a hesitant smile, he replied, What game are we playing? The kids cheered, excitedly brainstorming a new game on the spot. He took a tentative step forward, wanting to be part of something that felt so effortless for them. The laughter was intoxicating. He crouched down, mimicking their energy as they said duck duck goose and began to line up. You're it, Jake said, beaming. Steven let out a laugh that surprised even him. As the game progressed, the laughter grew louder, and for those fleeting moments, he began to forget the heaviness inside him. He chased and tagged. He was no longer just a visitor forced to confront his regrets. Each round brought back pieces of the child he once was, the one who didn't carry the weight of a million expectations. But in the corner of his mind, the gnawing fears lingered. With every laugh and every swift movement, he wondered if he'd lose himself again. Would this burst of joy be a facade quickly swept away when the laughter died down? Then he spotted Emily through the doorway, emerging from the meeting. She scanned the room until her eyes met his, and a bright smile spread across her face. It cut through the noise, drawing him in, making even the chaos feel harmonious. "Looks like you're having fun," she called, stepping closer. "I think I'm starting to remember how," Steven replied, a hint of pride in his voice. Her joy was infectious, and as they locked eyes, he felt a surge of hope. Perhaps this community wasn't a threat to the life he was trying to build, but rather, a crucial part of the foundation. Emily moved closer, the kids directing their attention toward her now. "We should have him join the next meeting," one of them chimed, enthusiasm spilling over. The notion brought a flutter of anxiety to Steven's stomach. What would they even want from him? As Emily shared details about the discussions they had just wrapped up, she steered the conversation toward community engagement and outreach. "Maybe you could help us reach more families, people who need this place," she suggested, her eyes bright and hopeful. His heart raced. Help? With what? He felt unworthy, like an imposter. "I don't know, Emily. What if I disappoint everyone?" "Steven," she said, her voice gentle yet firm. "You want tea. You've already taken a huge step by being here. Just being a part of this is enough." As if taking a deep breath for the first time in years, he contemplated her words. This was his chance to connect, to exist in the light instead of lurking in the shadows. "Okay," he finally said. "I'll think about it." The moment hung in the balance, weighty with potential. The laughter of the kids mingled with the echo of Emily's support, drumming something alive within him. But just as he felt a spark of determination, his phone buzzed in his pocket, vibrating with an urgency that cut through the warmth of the moment. He pulled it out, frowning as he read the message. "We need to talk. It's urgent about the business." With a sigh, reality hit him hard. Just when he'd begun to see a flicker of hope, the shadows of his former life threatened to drag him back down. Would this be the ultimatum that pulled him away from everything he was starting to build? As he stood there, torn between what was calling him and what he wished to embrace, dread twisted in his gut. The familiar feeling of uncertainty washed over him again. What choice would he make this time? The laughter faded as Steven glanced at his phone again, the bright screen cutting through the buzzing joy of the room like a cold wind. "We need to talk." The words echoed in his mind, tugging him back toward a life he thought he could escape. He looked around, taking in the smiling faces of the kids, their carefree giggles a stark contrast to the seriousness of his phone message. It felt like a tether pulling at him, yanking him away from something he was only beginning to grasp. Emily's eyes were still on him, full of hope and possibility, and for a moment, his heart raced at the choice before him. "Steven?" Emily's voice was soft, breaking through his spiraling thoughts. "What's wrong?" He hesitated. Should he confide in her? Tell her that the business was a world he had fought to leave but now threatened to pull him back. "Just work stuff," he finally murmured, pushing the phone back into his pocket. The words felt like a lie, but he didn't know how to explain. Emily studied him, her brow furrowed slightly. "You know, you don't have to carry all that alone. Whatever it is, you can share it," she offered, genuine concern in her voice. Steven wanted to let her in. He wanted to be the kind of guy who could open up and rely on someone else. Yet the weight of expectations and past failures wrapped around him tightly. Opening up meant vulnerability, a risk he wasn't sure he was ready to take. Before he could answer, Jake materialized beside him, his grin wide and bright, followed by a few other kids who captured the excitement of the moment. "Are you gonna play with us again?" he asked, eyes wide. "Yeah. Come on," another child chimed. Their joy was infectious, and Steven felt a tug in his heart. "Okay," he said, forcing a smile and pushing the heaviness down. "One more round." The laughter surged once more as he joined in, chasing after the kids, trying to forget about the shadows lurking behind him. But every time he tagged someone or fell into a fit of giggles, the tiny vibrations of anxiety didn't fully dissipate. As the game went on, he noticed Emily cheering from the sidelines, clapping her hands. She was clearly enjoying seeing him engage, and that spark of determination flickered up again. Perhaps he could figure out a way to reconcile both parts of his life. The thought made him feel lighter until the phone buzzed yet again, this time a reminder of a meeting later that day. This time, though, he hesitated before checking it. Did it really need to intrude right now? Hey, Steven! Emily's voice pulled his attention back. Listen, after this, do you want to grab coffee? I'd love to talk more about how you might get involved with the outreach efforts. Coffee. The suggestion hung in the air, promising connection and understanding, yet a pang of fear shot through him. What if after sharing a cup of coffee, he felt even more tangled in expectations? Or worse, what if he couldn't live up to anything they needed? Yeah, sure, I'll think about it, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper as new uncertainty filled the spaces around him. He was standing at a crossroads, but instead of clarity, he felt only increased fog. As the laughter of the kids enveloped him, he stole a glance at Emily, who was watching him expectantly. What if he said yes? What if he stepped into the unknown, both the dark whispers of work obligations and this vivid new world she offered? Real courage, he thought, was the ability to be embraced by uncertainty. Yet, as he tried to muster strength, the harsh ping of his phone drew his gaze back down. In that moment, it felt like the ball was in his court, but the stakes had never been higher. Would he have the courage to face what lay ahead? As the laughter echoed around him, Steven stood teetering on the edge of decision, heart racing as he felt the weight of something both daunting and thrilling. What awaited him next might just change everything. The kids' laughter filled the air, almost drowning out the noise of his racing thoughts. Steven tried to focus, trying to be present in the moment, but the ping of his phone still thudded in his mind. The decision loomed like a heavy cloud, darkening the joy around him. Tag! You're it! Shouted Jake, darting off with a playful giggle. Steven could feel a spark of exhilaration as he chased after him, but as he reached out, trying to pull the boy closer, his mind wandered again. Emily's offer, innocent and sincere, felt like a lifeline thrown to him from the chaos of his past. Steven! Emily called, her voice brightening as she could see the energy in him. Simon! You can do this! The game became a chaotic blur of color and laughter, and for brief moments, he managed to forget the phone, the meeting, and the nagging pressure from his former life. The kids were nothing but pure, unfiltered joy. He chased Jake until he was gasping for breath, their laughter bouncing off the playground equipment, echoing like a sweet song. But just as he was about to tag Jake, that ping came again. This time it felt like a slap, pulling him right back from the present. He glanced at his phone, heart sinking. It was an email reminder from work, a cruel reminder that it still wanted him. His stomach knotted, the fun of the moment fading as reality seeped back in. Hey, wanna take a break? Emily's voice cut through, as she approached with a glass of water, her concern palpable. Yeah, thanks, he replied, taking the cup from her but not meeting her gaze as he gulped down the water. You okay? She asked, searching his face for the answer she knew he was hesitant to give. I don't know, he finally admitted, the weight of everything pouring out. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. Emily smiled gently, leaning in closer. You know it's okay to be overwhelmed. Life's a lot sometimes. He was silent, feeling the fire of connection build. Her understanding kindness made it a little easier to breathe, but it still felt like a chasm between them. What if I told you I had a great idea after we grabbed coffee? Emily continued, sensing the shift in atmosphere. It could be fun. I mean, it could be your chance to dip your toes in outreach without the heavy expectations. His heart quickened at the thought. I just wonder if I can handle it. What if I mess up? Look, she said, a soft determination in her voice, none of us have it all figured out. Look at these kids, they don't care about perfection. They're just having fun and they'd be thrilled you're part of their lives. As she spoke, he caught glimpses of himself reflected in her sincerity. Perhaps he really could make a difference, not just for them but for himself too. Emily took his hand for a moment, grounding him. Just think about it, okay? You don't have to have all the answers now. In that moment, leaning against the sun-warmed playground equipment, Steven felt a flicker of hope. Maybe there was a path forward. Maybe he could be part of something good, something that truly mattered. But just as that flicker started to brighten, another notification on his phone pulled him back. A text from his old boss. His heart dropped. They needed him for an urgent project. He could feel the cold fingers of dread wrap around him. "Hey, are you okay?" Emily asked, her voice softening once more as she noticed his expression hardening. "Yeah, I just need a minute," he said, stepping back as he caught sight of the children still playing, blissfully unaware of the complications of adulthood. Steven felt torn again. He longed for the simple joys he had just tasted, but the pressure from the life he thought he had left behind loomed forward. What a dramatic turn his day had taken. Standing there, adrenaline and fear surged through him, battling for dominance. The easy laughter of the kids became a distant echo as the gravity of adulthood called to him with an unyielding grip. What would happen if he said yes to Emily and walked away from everything he feared? The uncertainty felt like a tidal wave crashing against him, thrilling yet terrifying. Would he find the courage to answer not just Emily, but himself at last, embracing a life beyond the constraints he had known all too well? As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows, his heart raced, knowing another decision awaited him. Would he really risk it all for the chance of something better? He stood there, heart pounding, as the sun slipped lower, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. The laughter of the children faded a little more with each ping of his phone. He resisted the urge to glance down again, feeling the tug of that text like a string pulling him back into the depths of responsibility. "Steven?" Emily's voice broke through his turmoil. He turned to her, her expression a mix of concern and encouragement. "You don't have to decide everything right now. Just take a moment." Her words wrapped around him, momentarily easing the whirlwind inside. He felt a weight shift just a little. This wasn't just about the meeting or the expectations from his past. This was also about how he felt standing here with her, about what he could become. He started, the words caught in his throat, but she gently squeezed his arm, urging him on. "Just be honest with yourself. What do you want?" she asked, her eyes serious yet soft, like they understood everything he was wrestling with. Steven took a deep breath, the sweet scent of grass and fresh air filling his lungs. I want to feel like I'm making a difference," he confessed, the truth spilling out. "But what if I just screw it all up? What if I mess up these kids' lives by being involved?" Emily shook her head, her smile unwavering. "Every adult has those fears. But think about it, this isn't some big, scary responsibility. You're just showing up, being present. That's what they need. Plus, look at you." She gestured to the kids running around joyfully. "You've already brought smiles to their faces just by being here." As his gaze drifted back to the children, he felt warmth flood his heart. He had made them laugh, had chased away their boredom for just a little while. Maybe he hesitated, hope knitting together with doubt. Emily stepped closer, her voice gentle but firm. "Think about it. You get to choose. Life doesn't have to fit into a mold of your old self. You could start fresh, take steps forward without knowing where they lead." She paused, her sincerity washing over him like a gentle wave. "And whatever happens, we'll figure it out together. But you need to just leap in." The intensity of her gaze held him captive. Could he really live differently? What would his life look like if he dared to step outside of his comfort zone? Suddenly, laughter erupted nearby, pulling him from his thoughts. Jake and another child had climbed to the top of the slide, their little legs kicking in the air, whooping with delight. The sight sent a jolt of energy through him, pulling at his heartstrings. "I used to love doing that," he said, a smile creeping onto his face. "The slide was where I felt the most free." "Then go. Be free," Emily encouraged, laughter dancing in her voice. "Okay, but I'm not going to be the one eating dirt." He chuckled, taking a few steps toward the slide, heart beating faster with a sense of mischief. "Who says you will? Just kick your fears aside and let it go," she yelled, her enthusiasm spinning like a wheel in motion. With a newfound spark igniting within, he approached the slide. Taking a deep breath, he climbed. The children cheered, their excitement pushing him on, filling the air with warmth that contrasted sharply with the cold grip of adult worries. As he reached the top, the view of the playground and the faces below swam into focus. He looked down, heart racing with thrill, ready to push off into the unknown. Could this really be a beginning? A chance to leap into a life where he wasn't just a spectator but a participant. But before he could slide down and embrace his moment of freedom, he spotted his phone again. This time it buzzed with urgency, demanding his attention, yanking him back from the precipice of joy and into the heavy weight of responsibility. "What's wrong?" asked Emily, her gaze flickering between his face and the phone. "It's work," he stuttered, words thick with dread. "They need me to respond," and at the moment hung in the air, a reminder of everything he wanted to escape. He could feel the tug-of-war inside him escalating. Could he find the balance between his old life and this new path? Would he take the slide into the unknown, or would he let the pounding demands of the past pull him away from this moment? Steven inhaled deeply, knowing that whatever choice he made next could redefine everything. As he prepared to take the plunge, an unanswered question lingered. Would he follow the path of hope, or would obligation chain him to his fears once again? Steven's fingers hovered over the screen, the vibrations of the phone echoing in his chest. The tension tightened around him like a vice. Emily's eyes were fixed on him, urging him silently to break free. He could hear the children's laughter, a joyous melody that seemed to beckon him away from the shackles of his responsibilities. "Just respond to them later," she urged softly. "This moment is yours." He took a deep breath, trying to ground himself in the present. Yet the allure of that text loomed larger than the joy around him. It was messy. It was complicated. It was everything he thought he needed to handle. But as he looked over at the slide, with little Jake still whooping with delight, something inside him shifted. With a sudden burst of determination, he tossed his phone behind him into the grass. It felt liberating, as if he had tossed away more than just a device, he had tossed away a piece of his old life. "You're right," he said, the words slipping out as though they were a confession. "I'm ready to try." Emily's eyes sparkled, her infectious energy lighting up the fading evening. "Then go. Be a kid again, Steven." He looked down the slick surface of the slide, and an exhilarating thrill coursed through him. The way the sunlight glimmered off the top made it seem like a gateway to something wonderful. He pushed off, feeling the rush of air surround him. The world screamed past him, and for those brief seconds sliding down, everything else, work, expectations, the heavy weight of his choices, faded away. A burst of laughter erupted when he hit the ground. The kids rushed toward him, cheers merging in a joyful cacophony. He was met with their glowing faces, bright smiles filled with admiration. It was as if he had just performed the greatest feat. He had taken a slide and conquered his fears. "Do it again!" Jake shouted, bouncing on his little feet with excitement. "Yeah, let us go!" Another child added, pulling Steven toward the steps of the slide. Before he could even process the idea, he found himself running back up, the thrill pulsing through him, feeding off the children's joy. Each time he slid down, he felt lighter, as though with every descent, he was sloughing off years of stress and doubt. After a few runs, he flopped onto the grass, panting but blissful. The sunset painted the sky in a riot of colors, and for the first time in a long while, he felt sincerely at peace. Perhaps through this leap into uncertainty, he had begun to redefine not just his responsibilities, but also himself. Still, the phone's absence loomed in the back of his mind. It felt unreal, almost reckless. Was he being foolish, or had he just unlocked a part of himself that he had buried for too long? Emily joined him on the grass, laughter still dancing in her voice. Who knew the corporate millionaire had such smooth moves? He chuckled, the sound vibrant and free. "I wouldn't have guessed this morning," he replied, glancing at her. "Maybe you just needed a little push," she said, nudging him playfully. "I have to admit, this was all you. I was terrified of facing them, of being here." His gaze drifted back toward the children, "That's the thing, Steven," she said, her voice steady, wise. "You don't have to face them, you can just be with them. That's enough." Her words settled deep within him, resonating in a way he hadn't felt before. Maybe he'd been looking at this all wrong. Perhaps what they needed wasn't a perfect adult, but instead someone willing to join them in their untamed world. As dusk began to settle in, Steven sat with Emily, surrounded by the laughter of children still playing under the oncoming twilight. Realizing that each child's unfiltered joy was a reminder of what he had lost, an ache formed in his chest, not of sadness but of hope. Would he find a way to balance this newfound freedom with the ties of responsibility still waiting for him? Before he could dive deeper into his thoughts, Emily's phone chimed, pulling her attention away. She glanced at it, brows furrowing slightly. "Oh no," she murmured. "I have to take this." Steven watched her stand, a feeling of uncertainty bubbling up again. What would happen next? Would this breakthrough lead toward the life he sought, or would old commitments once again steal him away? As he watched her walk to a quieter spot, the question loomed vividly: was he ready to embrace a life filled with laughter and unpredictability, or would he let himself be snared by the shadows of what once was? The chill of the evening air brushed against Steven's skin, pulling him from his thoughts. He felt a sudden emptiness around him as Emily walked away, disappearing into the gathering dusk. She was just a few feet away, but it felt like an ocean of uncertainty opened between them. As the fading light painted the park in softer hues, the laughter of the children began to fade as well. Some were starting to gather their things, ready to head home. Steven's chest tightened. He didn't want this moment to end. He didn't want to be reminded of the responsibilities waiting for him. He leaned back on his hands, staring up at the indigo sky. Stars began to peek through the darkening canvas, twinkling like tiny promises. He could lose himself in their vastness, but deep down, he knew he couldn't escape reality forever. The phone was still gone, but the sense of impending obligation hovered around him like a dark cloud. Moments passed, strewn with the fading sounds of the children's giggles. Steven felt detached, as though he was observing life from behind a glass wall. He glanced over at Emily, who was now animatedly engaged in her phone conversation, her brows knit and her brow furrowed in concern. A flutter of anxiety twisted in his stomach. He couldn't help but wonder what was so urgent. Was it work? Was it her life? He turned away from her, focusing on Jake, who had just climbed the slide again. A wide grin spread across the boy's face as he prepared to conquer the slick surface once more. "Hey, buddy!" Steven called, trying to ignore the thoughts swirling in his brain. "You want to race me down?" Jake's eyes lit up, the innocence of childhood reflecting all the joy Steven desperately craved. "Yeah!" he yelled, scrambling up to the top. In a burst of spontaneity, Steven bolted to the base of the slide. The children gathered around, cheering them on. Little voices called out his name, and their excitement wrapped around him like a warm blanket against the encroaching chill. Maybe this was what Emily meant, just being there, without the weight of the world pressing down on him. "On 3!" he shouted. 1, 2, 3. They pushed off together, a mix of grown-up and child, laughter spilling from their lips as they flew down. The earth rushed up to greet them, and in those fleeting seconds, Steven felt a glimmer of hope. He hit the ground with a thud, rolling backward with a peal of laughter that flowed from him effortlessly. Again. The children were in a frenzy now, urging him to rise and join them. He could hardly catch his breath but found himself laughing harder than he had in years. Just then, Emily approached, her phone pocketed, eyes wide with amusement at the sight of Steven rolling on the grass with the kids. "What are you doing?" she asked, a soft smile playing on her lips. "Winning friends?" He shot back, joy spilling into every syllable. "You're a natural," she replied, her laughter mixing with theirs. But beneath the joy, a new worry tugged at him. He couldn't ignore that pull of responsibility for long. What awaited him at home? Messages unreturned, obligations lurking at the back of his mind. Despite the exhilaration, he felt the familiar tension creeping back in. He turned away from the children, searching for a moment of solitude. Emily noticed, her smile faltering as she followed his gaze. "Are you all right?" "Yeah, just thinking," he replied, his voice steadying. "Thinking about what?" "About what happens next. I feel, how do I say this? Light, but heavy at the same time." He watched as her expression transformed a mix of concern and understanding. "You're going to have to make a choice, Steven," she said. "Life will always pull at you from every direction." Her words hung in the air. As the dusk deepened, he felt the weight of those choices pressing down. How could he navigate this turning point in his life and embrace this new freedom, while the world still tugged at him? Still caught in the balance, Steven focused on the children, laughing and clambering around him. Yet uncertainty coiled in the pit of his stomach. In that moment, a familiar tone echoed from his discarded phone. Steven froze. The reality he had cast aside was making its return. Would he answer the call of his old life or allow himself to chase this newfound freedom? As the phone's vibration echoed louder, he faced the dilemma with his heart racing. Was he truly ready to walk away from everything he thought defined him? The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a gentle twilight across the playground. Laughter mingled with the sounds of falling leaves, creating a symphony of warmth. Steven's heart raced, caught between two worlds, each pulling at him with different desires. But deep down, clarity began to take form. Emily's steady gaze anchored him, radiating compassion and understanding. "Whatever you're facing, you don't have to carry it all alone," she said softly. Her sincerity seeped into him like sunlight peeking through darkness. The weight of everything he had held since that fateful text slowly started to lift, illuminated by the connection he felt. He faltered, taking a deep breath. "I thought I had to be this perfect version of myself, successful, unshakable. But here, with you and the kids," he glanced at the children, who were still giggling, their joy infectious. "I feel lighter, freer. I don't want to go back to that life where I lost sight of what really mattered." "That's it, Steven. Embrace this," Emily encouraged, her excitement palpable. "You have the power to choose who you want to be moving forward. Don't let the past pull you back into its grasp." "It's so hard to step away," he admitted, every word weighed down with the truth of his struggle. "They think I'm their lifeline. What if I fail them?" "Failure is part of life," Emily said, her tone resolute. "But staying stuck is the real failure. Life's not about perfection. It's about showing up, being there." As her words settled deep within him, a realization dawned: he could redefine what success meant. It didn't have to be built on accolades and status. It could be built on connection and compassion. He looked back at the children, their laughter ringing in his ears. Jake spotted him and shouted, "Hey! Come play again." A tug of joy pulled at his heart. The laughter. The uncomplicated love. Surrounded by innocent faces, he could finally breathe. Taking a deep breath, Steven felt his anxiety dissolve like morning mist. He turned back to Emily, a smile breaking across his face. "You're right. I'm ready to step into this new chapter. I want to be someone they can rely on, not just a ghost from the shadows of my past." "This is it!" she exclaimed, a proud grin lighting up her face. "You're choosing joy over fear. That's the bravest thing you can do." With a sudden surge of energy, Steven joined Jake at the slide, laughter pouring out of him. He felt alive in ways he hadn't imagined possible. Every tag, every chase was a joyful reminder of the life he was beginning to embrace, unshackled from the chains of yesterday. As the kids rallied around him for yet another round of racing, he felt a warmth spread through him, the thrill of possibility blooming like flowers in spring. Emily watched, her eyes sparkling with hope. But then, the phone buzzed again, relentless in its call. Steven hesitated, glancing down at the demanding screen, then looked back at the children. The determination twinkled in their eyes, and he remembered what Emily had said. Life was about showing up, and here, amidst laughter and unfiltered joy, he finally understood what that meant. With a smile of resolution, he bent down and grabbed his phone, powered it off, and tossed it back into the grass, a symbolic farewell to the weight he had carried for too long. The warmth of the moment enveloped him. Instead of retreating from the laughter, he dove right in, believing once more in a future where he could care, share, and grow. Emily joined him again, her laughter mixing with his as they played tag with the children. Together, they forged connections, emerging stronger, alive in their truth. As the stars began to twinkle above them, illuminating a vast world of possibilities, Steven couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. He was embracing love, resilience, and the chance to rewrite his story alongside Emily and those kids who had opened his heart after years of isolation. "Hey everyone!" he shouted, excitement coursing through him. "Let us create a community event. We can invite families, bring them together, and build something amazing." Cheers erupted around him. In that moment, I felt whole: a father, a mentor, a friend, and perhaps, just maybe, a little more human than before. As they played long into the evening, laughter echoing under the golden glow of streetlights, Steven finally realized, and it felt absolutely right, he was home. If this journey touched your heart, now is the time to show your support. You need to subscribe now, so you won't miss these incredible stories next time. Leave a like right away to help us feed the algorithm. It makes a real difference for our community. Comment below your feelings about this heartwarming ending. We'd love to hear from you. And remember, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need a reminder that transformation is possible. Don't wait not even one more second to be part of this amazing journey. Your support matters.